Now, once someone pointed this out to me, it really started sticking out to me, but it's really interesting when you pay attention how many times Jesus uses questions. It was really a part of the culture he lived in, but it's really changed. You know, I was a teacher. I taught high school English for 16 years. I teach high school seniors Bible now, and it really has changed a lot of the way I think about teaching, right? Because growing up in the West, we tend to do a lot of lecture. But if you notice what Jesus does, first he tells a lot of stories, and he also asks a lot of questions. And it's much more, I think studies have proven this, it's much more effective to ask questions and help lead someone to making their own conclusion than it is for you just to tell someone something. And if you want to do a really interesting little Bible study, the next time you're reading through a gospel, just note every time Jesus asks a question. One of my favorites is from Luke 10, when this lawyer wants to put him to the test, and he asks Jesus, well, what must I do to inherit eternal life? And what does Jesus do? He doesn't answer the question. He asks him a question right back. He says, what is written in the law? How do you read it? The lawyer answers, to love God and love your neighbor. Jesus said, you answered correctly. So notice Jesus didn't have to answer the question. And I've been, like I said, I've been using this more with my students when I teach Bible now. They'll ask me a theological question, and before I try to answer it, I say, well, what do you think? Or, you know, I ask another student, well, how would you answer that? And let the students work it out. And then a lot of times I just wind up saying, yeah, that's a really good answer. So in a way, it takes a lot of pressure off me, makes my job a lot easier, but it's also good teaching because you're making them think it out and work it out on their own. But the interesting thing here is that the lawyer does it right back to Jesus, right? He wants to justify himself. So he asks Jesus, well, who is my neighbor? And what does Jesus do? He tells a story. He tells the parable of the Good Samaritan. And I think probably if you grow up in church, you know that story about the man who's robbed and attacked and left for dead on the side of the road. And we have two religious leaders walk by and ignore him. And then a Samaritan, who were the enemy of the Jews, is the one who actually stops and cares for this man. And Jesus, again, instead of him telling him the moral of the story or the point of the story afterwards, he ends with a question. Which of these three do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers? So notice how he uses question to lead people to the proper conclusions.